Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed to the Substack DaftOnDraft.football, where you will get access to all of these charts on Google Drive for every quarterback in the class, access to insider information on the Discord channel, film rooms every single week, live chartings every single week, big boards, positional rankings, more and more. So make sure you are tuned in. Welcome back into another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast presented by FanDuel. As always, James and Corey here, and this is it. You know, James and I have been talking about our prep for Shrine Bowl, and it's finally here. We are pre-recording this the night before. We're both traveling there, so this episode is releasing on Friday. We're recording this on Wednesday night here. We're going to go through the Shrine Bowl roster and kind of break down our thoughts on these players heading into a week of practice, 4 days of practice, and get the chance to really break it down. So, James, are you ready for this week, man? I'm so excited. I had a blast last year. I'm excited to get back down there.
I'm ready. We need to get it started before any more of these players drop out of the game, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And they're still adding players to the roster, too. They've blasted out 4 different players that have been added to the roster in the past 20 minutes. So, as we're recording this, I'll keep refreshing the X page, the Shrine Bowl X page, and see if we get more players. How we're going to structure this is we're going to go defense, then offense, and we're going to start with interior and work our way out and up. So defensive tackle to edge to linebacker to corner to safety is how we'll hit this to start here. Starting with the defensive tackle crop at Shrine. The headliner is obviously Darrell Jackson Jr., who has some day 2 grades, had some first round grades heading in from summer from Florida State. I'm not overly high on Darrell Jackson. I don't have a top 50 grade on Darrell Jackson from Florida State. I would say he is the headliner in this group of defensive tackles at Shrine, however.
And you can see the measurables with Darrell Jackson. That is the starting point. That's kind of what gets you in the door with him. Man, when you watch his tape, like the dominant flashes are absolutely there. I mean, he can just wreck guards and centers with power in dominant fashion to the level that most defensive tackles just aren't capable of. I have a similar problem with Darrell Jackson Jr. as I do with Demonte Capehart and like a lot of defensive tackles, which is that he pretty much just has a bull rush, and he's, how old is he? Let's see. Going to be 23 on draft day. Want to see more, expanded bag as a pass rusher. And then I don't think the lower half is very flexible. So despite his size, he still gets driven back in the run game a lot because he can't really sink his anchor. But I like the size, the measurables. I can't knock him too far outside of my top 100.
Yep. Completely agree. The other names here in this class, Albert Regis and Tyler Onyedem of Texas A&M, Caleb Proctor of Southeastern Louisiana, Dante Corleone of Cincinnati, Demonte Capehart of Clemson, David Blade Jr. of Miami, Brendan Cleveland of NC State, Gary Smith III of UCLA, who I think is actually a really fun nose tackle in this class, by the way, James Thompson at Illinois. Landon Robinson should have some fun in one-on-ones because he's a crafty little gap shooter from Navy. To kind of round out that group, Jackie Marshall and David Gusta as well. David Gusta is a fun little nose tackle too. But so I think overall, this group has some fun names with some underwhelming tape based on expectations we had coming into the season. We've been talking about Dante Corleone for a few years now. And of course, Corleone had the blood clot thing in his lung, which kind of threw his college career for a loop a little bit last year. I still think he's a really stout run defender, but I think that's about all you're getting there.
Yeah, I'm a little bit behind on the Dante Corleone tape from this year, but Gary Smith, might watch him in the airport. That might be my next watch.
He's fun. He's hard to move. Again, Landon Robinson is probably the one I'm most looking forward to watching this week, just because he's really undersized. He's like 280 pounds, but he is twitched up and he is a fun little gap shooter. Any name out here that you want to shout out before we move on to edge rushers?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Texas A&M defensive tackles a decent amount. 120 and 126. But yeah, Caleb Proctor coming from a lower level of competition, I wasn't blown away by his tape, but I think certainly a draftable player, especially if he can, show out against power four competition.
He's got a maybe one of the weirder body types in all of the class as well. He's like 6'1", 280 with like, yeah, 33-inch arms. So like the arms are down to his knees because his arms are long and his body's really condensed. And no wingspan. So just a weird kind of body
Yeah,
type
that is
there.
interesting.
All
All
right,
right,
let's move
edge.
to edge rushers here. Yeah. All right. So obviously, right there at the top is Malachi Lawrence, who James mocked in the first round of our mock draft episode earlier in the week from UCF. I've watched Malachi Lawrence too. He's a little bit stiff for my liking coming around the outside track, but the explosiveness and the burst is unbelievable. And I think he has his pass rush profile is so funny because I think he has some of the most nuanced tool belt. Like his tool belt is full. It's so nuanced, but yet like he doesn't quite know how to use them yet appropriately, pre-snap to post-snap.
Yeah, loves the two-hand swipe. I do agree that the bend is kind of lacking. Bend counters bull rush technique. Like he needs at 6'4", 263 with 35-inch
Mhm.
arms. Like that's the perfect build and explosive. That's the perfect build to convert speed to power. Uh, it just goes nowhere way too often. So that's the number one thing I want to look for with Malachi Lawrence.
Yep, and he's got a pretty good opportunity in these one-on-ones to do it.
Whew.
Uh, yeah, the explosiveness is real, man, with Malachi Lawrence, and the measurables as well at 6'4", 263, and 35-inch arms. So a fun player to watch there. Other edge rushers in the group: Anthony Lucas out of USC, Keyshawn James Newby out of New Mexico, Tyreek Sapp out of Florida, Ethan Burke out of Texas, Wesley Williams out of Duke, Patrick Payton out of LSU, Brian Thomas Jr. out of South Carolina, George Gums from Florida, Mason Reiger, Wisconsin, Nigel Kelly, another UCF pass rusher, and Marvin Jones Jr. out of Oklahoma, and Aiden Hubbard out of Northwestern. James, you had a hot take earlier in the season that, like, at a current pace that Anthony Lucas was playing, you could see some team maybe taking him really early. Where are you at now with Anthony Lucas?
Yeah, so that hype train for me died like immediately after recording. I think literally the next day he had his worst game of the season against Oregon, and then followed it up with a not great performance that I watched a couple weeks ago. So yeah, ended on a bit of a quiet stretch, but I think the body of work from this season is really impressive, and the frame, the size. I think that Anthony Lucas, to be able to win the outside track at this high of a rate, for a 279 pounder with an 84 and a quarter inch wingspan. Yeah, I think the physical traits just are not going to last long.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you a little bit there. We should also shout out, going back to defensive tackles, that a late ad just tonight was Duke's defensive tackle Aaron Hall Jr. as well. So he'll be at Shrine too. But yeah, in terms of this edge class, I think overall I'm a little underwhelmed. Outside of, I mean, Lawrence is going to be one of the top guys to watch in the entire event. A bit underwhelming otherwise in this edge class. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
I need to catch up on Keyshawn James Newby's tape over the back half of the season. I remember I watched him last year when he was at Idaho, and then transferred to New Mexico. Had a strong start to the year. I watched his game against Michigan. It was very good. He's an undersized DPR, should have a lot of success in the one-on-ones at Shrine. And then Tyreek Sapp is like the polar opposite.
Tyreek Sapp is a very funny player to me because, like, he looks the part. Like, he wears, like, the really high cut pants on the field as well, so, like, his quads are out flexing at everybody, but then, like, the ball's snapped and there's not much juice.
Yeah. I even thought, like, I never thought he projected as this great pass rusher, but when you watch his tape last year, there were at least like wins, and
Mhm.
it felt like he could maybe be a contributor as like, a team's fourth or fifth most productive pass rusher. This year, there's just like nothing.
Yeah.
I tried to go and chart his wins, and he didn't have enough wins over the entire season for like it to even mean anything. It would be like I found like 5 or 6. So yeah.
Damn. Anything you want to hit on here with the edge class before we move on to linebackers?
I watched Wesley Williams out of Duke. Massive waste of time. Nobody watch
Oh
him.
my god. Nobody
um,
watch him.
Patrick Payton is like another guy that just looks the part, and then you watch his
Mhm.
tape, and there's just nothing going on. And then Brian Thomas Jr. is interesting because uh, I charted him, and as you can see,
It's a lot of ghost moves.
he broke my graph because normally this is supposed to say power for what percentage you win with power, but he's the only edge rusher I've charted who has not recorded a single win with a bull rush. He tries it sometimes, but yeah.
Fascinating. That's a lot of ghost moves too. I feel like a ghost move is like one where you get guys out leaning and then you hit it. So like you see
Right.
like one every other week. To have
Yeah.
30% of your pass rush moves be ghost moves is like pretty big tell.
There are some guys that can pull it off, like Cassius Howell,
Mhm.
because he dresses it all up and like makes every move look either the same or look exactly like the opposite move. So I think you can kind of have a like more one dimensional pass rushing plan if you still set the moves up in different ways.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's hit some linebackers here. Let's get after some linebackers. This class is going to be headlined by an all first team name and Harold Perkins Jr. Who by all means came like burst on the scene as a freshman, hitting ghost moves like crazy. However, the frame never filled out. ACL tear, kind of a positionless player. James, I see you have a fifth on him. I have a little bit even lower than that on Harold Perkins. I don't know what to do with the guy other than have him play special teams. And honestly, my first thought is like go find a team that wants you to play some split safety.
Yeah, he's kind of like a Kyle Lewis type, except just the tape isn't good.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I still need to watch the back half of his season, but the fifth round grade is from the start to the year. I just think like even going back and watching his freshman year pass rushing, it's way less uh, dominant than I remembered it. It was a lot of like cleanup hustle stuff. That part of his game isn't even really that enticing to me.
Yeah, this linebacker group is an interesting one because it's highlighted by a lot of guys who you hear the name and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's a really fun name," but the tape hasn't added up. Again, Lander Barton a couple years ago had first round summer grades from scouts. I watched Lander Barton and I see this year's tape of Lander Barton and I see like a 4.8 athlete. Like I don't see a guy really bursting. I don't see a whole lot of ability to get sideline to sideline. Um, you have his athleticism percentiles really high, which is interesting to me because that's not something that I saw on tape. Um, and then Torian York is I don't know why Torian York declared, to be completely honest with you. He's undersized and he's not very athletic. So that's one where I kind of scratch my head at because as I had some scouts as well who I had one scout in particular as well who told me that A&M was calling area scouts and saying, "Will you please talk to this guy and let him know like what his draft projection is?" Because they're like, It's not a good idea." And all of so that like scouts were calling York and being like, "Listen, man, this is where you're gonna go if you declare." He still declared. So that's interesting to me as well. There.
Yeah, I was really disappointed with Torian York's tape. I had a better start to the season, but I mean there was a stretch of like 3 games uh, towards the back half of the year that was some of the worst linebacker tape in this class.
Hmm.
Eric Gentry is like I'm not really a fan, obviously, but he's just a
The body type
fascinating
is
player.
really
Like,
weird there too, man.
I mean, check this out.
Bizarre body type. 100th percentile across the board and then 7th percentile weight.
The dude
Amazing.
cannot stand up to a brisk wind.
No. Yeah. He's
I
built
mean,
built like a
he's
basketball player.
rangy, he's long, he is a playmaker, but like any even incidental contact, and he's like flying off the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely agree. He's another one that I wanna say, like, well, that's a special teamer. That's even a weird body type for special teams because, like, is he gonna block on kick return with guys flying full speed into his chest? I don't think so. Like,
Yeah,
he'd be the here we go, the world's funnest gunner. Just let's stick him
he
out there
would.
and
Yeah,
although I don't think the explosiveness, the athleticism's there to do that either, but Red Murdoch is a fun little one. I know Aiden Fisher dropped out, so we can't really talk too much about Aiden Fisher, from Indiana, who is my guy in this class. I really like Aiden Fisher, but Red Murdoch is fun. Not a great athlete, but he will punch coming downhill, so that's a lot of fun to watch on tape. And then he's a really good tackler in the box as well. So, eyes get a little caught up by eye candy sometime there, but he's a fun one for sure.
yeah. Overall, I think linebacker maybe not the strongest group, but it is. There are a lot of intriguing storylines. You know, with
Mhm.
Harold Perkins, like obviously is somebody that if he has a good pre-draft process, like I'm sure there are people in the NFL that are are or were high on his potential.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure as well, and we didn't even talk about Jake Golday yet, who, we were both fairly high on into the season. I felt like the tape kept getting a little bit worse week
Yeah.
by week for Golday. Um, he's my linebacker 6. I actually have Aiden Fisher ranked ahead of Golday. Golday is a much better athlete. That's gonna be the calling card for him at 6'4", 237, and the explosiveness that he possesses. Um, when I watched Golday's tape, it's kind of underwhelming to see him try to change directions. I think he's pretty stiff, pretty tight, and then he just I don't feel like punches quite as well as I hoped a guy of his body type would. Like, there were times where he's playing out in overhang where he's getting kind of backside hooked by slot receivers or one-on-one by tight ends, and it's just like, "Come on, man." Especially at 6'4", 237. So, but he's got a chance to really make a statement out here in this one and earn some good grace back, I think.
Yeah, for sure. He was making a run for first round or top 40 like week 7 of this year. Some coverage issues started to show up. I think like for a player that hasn't really played stack linebacker that much, I still think that uh the starting point for his like coverage awareness, I think, is pretty promising because you see him at least be able to feel out routes, and he isn't just spot dropping and covering grass. But uh, yeah, he needs more experience, like taking
Yeah.
real zone drops and passing off routes, anticipating throws.
And playing in the freaking box. Just like
Yeah,
it's bizarre to see a man of his size overhanging out in against like, hanging in the slot against trips as much as he does. It's bizarre. Um, I honestly think that, like, his day 1 potential in the NFL would be, like, as a Sam linebacker on base downs and then kind of develop eyes at Mike over time. Anything else in this linebacker class you wanna shout out?
that's really all I got for this linebacker class.
Alright, let's hit up corners. So the corner class got a big ad tonight as we're again recording this on Wednesday night. Oregon nickel Jaden Kennedy is joining the party here, and Jaden Kennedy is a player that we've both followed since he was at Tulane. He went from Tulane to Ole Miss to Oregon. His tape is really fun at Tulane. Ole Miss tried to stick him at outside corner, and it didn't go very well last year. Got back, kicked back into the nickel at Oregon this year, and his tape's a lot of fun at Oregon this year. Again, it's a really good class to need a nickel, and I would have to think heavier about this, but there's part of me on my gut instinct is to say that outside of like Stukes, Bond or Stukes, Pons, Canada might be in that like next tier of nickels.
Yeah, I would have to consider Kennedy or Keontae Scott.
Okay.
Um, Scott really struggled to cover Omar Cooper in man coverage.
Hmm.
It was pretty concerning. You know, they play a lot of zone. Um, but yeah, I could definitely see Kennedy over Scott. He's younger.
He is. He is. Outside of that, we've got some other fun names in here. Amari Harvey is a pretty fun name from Georgia Tech. Brett Austin has had some really good tape, and I know there's a lot of fans out there for Devon Marshall from NC State as well. Any names here at corner that really stick out to you?
So as you can see, I have 0 graded players in this cornerback class. I do have a late third on Jaden Kennedy and Brent Austin. I've seen enough of watching Hezekiah Massey's. It's one of those where like I watched Massey's kind of early in the year. I didn't know Brent Austin was in this class, and then I just keep watching like their other corner because I'm like, hey, he's pretty good. And then I realized the whole time I should have just been paying more attention to him. But
Yeah.
I'll have to go back through his tape at some point. Do like Brent Austin as probably like an early day 3 guy, and then Devin Marshall's the guy that had like a billion pass breakups in one
Yep.
game, right? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I need to check him out, and I have heard good things about Amari Harvey as well.
Yep. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on some of the longer corners in this class too. I want to see how they kind of perform in one-on-ones, things like that as well. It's interesting. Both Toledo corners made the cut here too, so that'll be fun to see how that level of competition kind of punching up a little bit there goes for those Toledo guys. But Andre Fuller is listed as the biggest corner at Shrine this year, so um, definitely gonna keep an eye on that there. All
Yep.
right, let's round out the defense here.
Only 3 corners above 50th percentile in weight.
Yeah, it's not great. That's not great. All right, safety. Safety, low key, kind of fun too, man. Especially Lewis Moore, Dalton Johnson. Dalton Johnson, you watch Genesis Smith, you watch Traden Stukes. They are obviously the draw to watching the Arizona defense, the Arizona secondary. But you watch those two dudes long enough, and you see number 43 just kind of whizzing around the field and whizzing into the box. He misses a lot of tackles, but uh, he's just kind of I don't even know what to call him, but just like a jitterbug on that Arizona defense. There's like, oh, there's 43 again. There's 43 again. Just kind of flying around all over the place.
Yeah, and I would even I think a completely different caliber of prospect, but I could see Aiden Garnes getting drafted in like the 7th round. Their outside corner, he's got some nice reps. But yeah, I like Dalton Johnson a lot. That entire secondary is incredibly talented, and I mean the safety class. Like I'm a huge fan of Lewis Moore out of Indiana and Cole Wisniewski out of Texas Tech for what he is. Um, Bishop Fitzgerald has some incredible flashes on tape. He's kind of Jacoby Thomas coded, where like the highlights are just so much better than the tape snap to snap.
Mhm.
Um, Xavier Nwankpa,
I feel like we've been talking
former
about him for like 5 years.
former 5-star recruit. He I'm shocked honestly at the lack of explosiveness from deep safety from Xavier Nwankpa. Like 5 feet away from a hole shot, and he's got like 4 seconds to get to it, and he's just like running in place. It's pretty frustrating. And then, yeah, DQ Smith is my lowest graded player in the class.
Nice. I had a scout tell me that like you got to trust it on Ahmad Moses. I haven't watched any Ahmad Moses tape yet. SMU's Ahmad Moses at only 5'9" and 203 pounds, but the scout gave me the old, you got to trust me on this one with Ahmad Moses. So we'll see how Moses does in Frisco as well here at the Shrine Bowl. All right, let's flip over to offense here. And let's start with quarterbacks and work our way through skill positions and then linemen, obviously. So I honestly don't hate this group of quarterbacks.
No,
Well, I like okay.
I mean, relative to most Shrine Bowls, I think it's good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, last year was brutal. So like, there's some fun names here. Cade Klubnik is the highlighter, the highlighter, the headliner of this class. Klubnik obviously was getting mocked top 10 over the summer. That bottomed out very fast early in the season. But as we've discussed ad nauseum on this podcast at this point over the past couple weeks, is he spent in the back half of that season really just like elevating his floor. It felt like reconstructing his floor, putting floorboards back down, and just kind of going to work, doing the easy stuff, hitting the quick game on time, getting the ball out, still showing flashes of his athleticism because I do think he's a 4'6" athlete when he does tuck and run right around there. So I think he's done a good job now to where we can start maybe talking about Cade Klubnik again as is he that first quarterback in that backup tier off the board? We did after draft on this yesterday, and I still said I think some NFL team drafts Klubnik or drafts Nussmeier first, but personally, I would probably lean towards the athleticism of Klubnik over kind of the capped ceiling and still like Nussmeier's still got a pretty low floor for how capped a
Oh
ceiling is
yeah.
too. So I would still probably prefer Klubnik over that. But again, Klubnik came in the season by FanDuel, according to FanDuel, with 9-1 odds to win the Heisman, which was like second highest, and that clearly didn't happen. But this is a good opportunity for him to showcase.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like to me it's he's pretty comfortably quarterback 3. Like it's not really a question between him and Nussmeier. I just think Nussmeier is so limited.
Mhm.
And I'm glad you said he has a low floor because he's the type of player that you know people I think would classify as like a high floor, low ceiling. But when you're so physically limited, I mean, you
Mhm.
can really just bottom out in the NFL. Like
He's
the
physically limited, and he thinks he's more athletic than he is. So he's like
Mhm.
trying to spin out of pockets, and he's trying to extend, but he's got
And
no juice
thinks he
to
has a
actually
better
do it.
arm than he does,
Yeah.
and is very aggressive attacking zone coverage windows over the middle. Which, if you've got a BB gun, that's not a great combination.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Other names in this quarterback class, Baron Morton, who I came into the season high on as like the top name. I thought the top name in that backup tier quarterback group. Baron Morton, because I came into the season charting him as like the most accurate deep ball thrower, the most accurate passer from last year's tape as well, from my charting metric. Obviously, the tools have always been really limited on Morton, but the wheels have kind of fallen off this year for Morton. Obviously, capped off by the playoff game where he was completely ineffective and was the detriment to that Texas Tech team. So I'm lower than I think I had a fourth round grade coming into the season. Him, I think sixth to seventh is probably astute for him now, just because the ball placement fell off, which is the one thing that I thought I could count on with Morton, and that just didn't happen this season.
Yeah, they really should have gotten like one less defensive tackle and an upgrade at quarterback.
Yeah, yeah, probably should have.
I'm
Other names,
excited. I'm excited to watch Joe Fignano, the only quarterback taller than 6'2" in the Shrine
yeah.
Bowl class.
So I watched a lot of Skylar Bell tape. I don't know if I could say that I'm excited to watch Joe Fagnano
Oh, okay.
this week, but he's, I mean, he's takes care of the football. The ball's just all over the place. It kind of scatters on him. I'm kind of excited. Okay. I almost said I'm kind of excited for Daniels, King, and Drones, Kansas, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech quarterbacks, but we might get a lot of scramble drills and 7-on-7 this week with these three.
Yeah. Oh
Uh,
god.
Yeah, so keep an eye on Klubnik, and then we'll see from there this week. But let's move on to running backs now, and we will talk through some kind of get through these skill positions here. Running back class, Damon Claiborne, obviously the headliner because Claiborne came in as top 5 running back in the class from summer grades. I've never been quite high on Claiborne, but I've also really admitted that I have a very strong bias against chicken leg running backs. Like I want my running backs to have quads, like oozing quads. And Claiborne definitely doesn't have that. He is really explosive though, when he gets into the open field. So that is the calling card for Damon Claiborne, the headliner of this group. Other names: Roman Hemby from Indiana. Yeah, we'll see if he ends up playing in this game. He is still on the roster after he just played on Monday night, so we'll see what happens there. Chip Trayanum, who has been all over the freaking country in his college football career, from playing linebacker at Arizona State to then, or no, he played running back at, no, he played both running back and linebacker at Arizona State to Ohio State to Kentucky to Toledo. Now he's been all over the map. I'm really interested to see what they do with Eli Heidenreich. Are they going to give him majority reps at slot receiver, majority at reps at running back? When I watched his tape, I saw more of like a running back, like a third down back, than a wide receiver, and he's listed as a running back on the roster. So that might tell you something. But what else about this running class kind of sticks out to you?
Yeah, obviously, Damon Claiborne, Roman Hemby, I'm just not a huge fan of. He's such a just straight line, like no nuance, no patience, constantly, running into the back of his blockers. Even if, when he, hits the initial hole correctly, turning like 15-yard gains into 8-yard gains because he just can't cleanly get through traffic. Chip Trainum, it's kind of funny. I was like a few games through his Toledo tape, and I finally remembered who this guy
Yeah.
was because I have one of my friends is a big Ohio State fan, and I was like watching Ohio State for the draft one year, and he was like, "Hey, can you pay attention to our running backs, even though they're not, draft eligible? Because like I have to know why our running game is so bad." And I basically came back to him saying like, "Yeah, dude, you got to get rid of Chip Trayanum. This dude cannot play." Now his tape at Toledo was a lot better, but he is, 5'11", 225, kind of just a pure power back, not a whole lot of juice. There is some impressive vision on gap scheme runs. The end of the season finished really strong. The Bowling Green tape, I think, was really impressive.
Yeah. Yep. That I think sums up Trip Trayanum. I think the highlight of his career was he had that game-winning goal line touchdown against Notre Dame when Kyle McCord was starting at quarterback that year for Ohio State. Um, all right, let's move on to wide receivers. This is a pretty decent group. I was told today that Dazon Stribling, the Ole Miss wide receiver that I've been drooling over the past like month on this podcast, is dropping out. So that's a big time bummer because I thought this guy has. I mean, I still think he does have like pre-draft process rising ability. Um, I was really hoping to see him in this setting though, but he will not after Ole Miss kind of played late into the season here. Some other really fun names: Colby Young out of Georgia, Kendrick Law out of Kentucky, Skylar Bell out of Connecticut, and Xavier Thomas out of LSU are all names that I really like. I watched their tape and I was like, yeah, I can get on board with a specific role for all of these players.
Dude, I think Colby Young could go like really early. I was not really like tuned into his game because he missed so much of this season. Noticed that he was back for this past game. Ended up going back through the rest of his tape from earlier in the year, and I mean he looks like a starting X to me.
He's got the measurables 6'3.5", 215. This is an older group of wide receivers, obviously, as well. A lot of these guys fringing on 23, 24 years old here. Um, Kendrick Law's tape is fun too, man. He
Yeah.
has like a
Yep.
very specific role where he is absolutely a gadget and probably even see some maybe running back reps at the NFL level as well. But when he gets the ball in his hands, man, the Alabama transfer, Kendrick Law to Kentucky, some stuff can happen, and he is unbelievably explosive with the football in his hands.
He's like an appropriately valued Zachariah Branch.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
I think Zachariah Branch should go pick 70 and Kendrick Law should go like pick 90 to 100. Um, I really don't see like a huge gap in caliber of player when I watch their tape. I do prefer Branch. I mean, Branch just has unreal start stop
stop.
ability.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to making the first defender miss, I mean, he's unrivaled. But I'm not taking like just that skill set in the top 50.
Right. Me neither. Nope. Skylar Bell probably the headliner, maybe of the entire event. Blitnikoff finalist from UConn. Um, I think he's probably going to be more of a slot at the NFL level, just because he played a lot of slot at the college level too. But the nuance in his game is really good, but the route tree is really thin. So I'm interested to see how he can kind of expand on that nuance with a broader route tree in this setting if he gets the opportunity. And then he's punching up against competition, but punching up against competition is kind of what he's done all year. They played three P4 opponents, and he had three of his best games of the season. Those three games against P4 opponents. So looking forward to seeing Skylar Bell in this one too. And then the last one I really want to shout out is Xavier Thomas. I've been kind of a Xavier Thomas truther all season. He's so much fun as well. Another guy with unreal stop start, flexible like rubber band ankles and like knees. The amount of hip sync and knee sync he can get to change directions and find creative pathways with the football in his hands is unbelievable. He has a punt return touchdown this year. He's got that screenplay against Vanderbilt where he's dead in the water like three different times and he finds a way out to wiggle free. And then what I think most impressive about Xavier Thomason is at the end of the season, he started to get starter reps like at Z on the outside. And he was running some pretty clean routes. Like he beat Julian Neal,
Yeah, the
the
Arkansas game.
the Arkansas corner on a really clean comeback. He ran some digs over the middle and like had some contested catches through contact. He caught a ball down the sideline in that game too. So he kind of broke out of that like gadget mold later in the season. Is it enough to fight back against the gadget stereotype? Not quite yet. We'll see what happens in a setting like this, though.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch Xavier Thomas. This is, I mean, we talked about yesterday, like how do these offseason bulls affect grades? Like Xavier Thomas is the kind of guy that could rise like a round or more with a dominant performance, not just in the one on ones, which like I expect him to do really well in, but uh, when you watch LSU's offense this year, it's like you kind of get like your 10 Xavier Thomas reps a game that are like, truly gradable. Um, so it's just a lot smaller sample size than most receivers.
Agreed. And another name that I really want to shout out real fast too is Jeff Caldwell at Cincinnati. I had some scouts telling me some pretty big hype about Caldwell coming in the season. I don't know if the production matched that hype in his one season at the Power Four level, but this should be an environment we should be able to see that those massive measurables and explosiveness on display. So, um, yeah, let's move on to tight ends now. Tight end is a good class too. They had John Michael Gillenborg until senior came along late and pulled him out. Dallin Bentley out of Utah, Eli Raridon at Notre Dame, Riley Nowakowski kind of hybrid there, fullback, tight end, and then Jack Endries are the four real headliners from this group as well. Endries came into the season with some hype coming from Cal. He was a player that I enjoyed his tape over the summer when I was charting Fernando Mendoza, and obviously the Mendoza narrative from me is beat like a dead horse, but uh, the production didn't quite match this year at Texas. I mean, he was taking like RPO sticks and chunking out like 15 yards after the catch at Cal. That didn't really happen this year at Texas. So we'll see if he can kind of pull stuff together here in this pre-draft process.
Yeah, I need to catch up on his tape for sure. But I do really like the top three of this class. Just watched Dallin Bentley today, wrote him
He's
up.
fun.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. I mean, he is a really technically advanced route runner. Has uses rocker steps, does a great job of setting up in breaking routes. Uh, it's so bizarre. He has like rock solid hands. Didn't have a single drop this year. He struggles so much with adjusting his route, like when he's already at full speed, tracking the ball and adjusting to it deep down the field. I mean, it's the accuracy was a big issue on his targets, but I feel like he could have come down with more than, what is it, like 4 for 17 contested catches
Yeah.
on his career. So that's a worry for me. I do think the lack of a catch radius also to adjust to throws outside of his frame. But he's really crafty after the catch. Surprisingly, I think straight line speed is probably adequate, and the blocking tape. I was like totally out on Dallin Bentley when I was watching his blocking tape from the end of the year. It got a little bit more passable like in the first half of the season, but um, he's a complete work in progress from a technique standpoint. I was trying to figure out how to embed the gif of Buddy the Elf trying to hug a raccoon into my scouting report, because like that's him initiating a block. It's just bear hug and like, here, stab my frame as hard as you can.
Love it. I love it. All right. Moving on to let's do offensive tackles. Let's start with tackles and we'll kick inside from there. Late ads in Nolan Rucci out of Penn State and Micah Pettis out of Florida State and Joe Cooper from Slippery Rock. I'm not going to pretend like I've watched some Slippery
Never
Rock.
heard of him.
Um,
I love Keegan Trost.
Keegan Trost is fun, man. He's got some short arms, so I do think he is a guard prospect at the next level. But Trost had again another well traveled game, another well traveled player who went from like it was like Morgan State to Indiana State to Wake Forest to Missouri. So like he's seen the FCS level all the way through. He's a fun player. Who is again a guard at the next level, but yeah, a sixth year guy. I think he's a sixth year guy. He is 25, so an older prospect, but he's definitely come up late in the in his college football career.
Something about those Missouri right tackles wearing number 79. I mean, dude, he is a mauler in the run game. And I mean, pass pro, like he is as technically advanced as he has to be to survive with his, average physical traits. He's got a wide array of punch strategies. You see him use the flash bait, double punch, outside hand punch. The last game I watched, I saw him use independent hands, punch with the outside, retract, corral with the inside hand. Um, and then the anchor is really solid as well. The lack of length does kind of reduce his margin for error. You watch the Auburn game, which was dominant pretty much every play, but he lost. He gave up a sack to Kayron Crawford on a stab chop where it's like, yeah, if he has 34.5-inch arms, he probably isn't getting beat that badly. But I think he will be a really good guard. He's with dribbling out, he's my highest graded offensive player in the Shrine Bowl.
Love it. Again, I've said my piece on Ole Miss tackle Diego Pound as well. If there's a player, a developmental tackle that I want to draft on day 3 as like a swing tackle, developmental tackle, it's him because they don't make them like him very often. 6'5 and a half, 337, 34, 2 and 25-inch arms, and he moves really well at that size.
Mhm.
Technically, he's a freaking mess. He's a freaking mess. But I love the raw traits and I love the body type there with Diego Pounds. So I'm excited to see him. And I even thought like the Miami game might have been his best game of the season as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. I remember a couple losses, but all things considered,
Yeah, it's legit.
definitely. I mean, yeah.
Chris Adams is a guy that I had a decent day 3 grade on over the summer. I'll probably come in lower now. Obviously, Fa'alili Fa'ome, another player I don't quite see. So there's some hype out there for him. I don't quite see it. Um, and then Emil Wagner is another one of those like why did you declare players from Notre Dame. That guy I think is a backboard in terms of stiffness, completely out over his waist, big time waist bender. So um, don't quite enjoy that one as much. Any other names you want to hit on here?
Garrett DiGiorgio.
You just like to say the name.
I don't know anything about him. I just like saying the name.
Yeah, I love it. All right, let's kick inside. Let's go to guard.
All right, I'm grouping. Now we'll just do guard. Here we go.
So guard also added a Wyoming offensive lineman just tonight as well. Caden Barnett from Wyoming.
Got him in the system.
Nice. So, all right, talking through this, the guard class is low key, I think, sneaky good. Evan Bernstein is kind of sneaky good from Northwestern. I like Gio El Hadi's tape a little bit from Michigan as well. Like he's a pretty firm day 3, like backup guard if you're drafting a backup guard day 3. Jaden Roberts, as you said, is good when he's on the field, but the opportunities to get him on the field are very rare consistently. And then I wasn't super high on DJ Campbell coming into the season. I think I had a 6 coming on him, like on the season. I think that's kind of where he sits. Josh Braun, uber athletic. I don't know about much more than that though from Josh Braun out of Kentucky.
Yeah, the Kentucky offensive tape outside of Kendrick Law is mostly just holdovers from last season and like the first few games of this year. So need to catch up on his tape, but we've got some big dudes in the Shrine Bowl class. Jesus. 4 above 338 pounds. Inez Cooper, I love some of the things that he does in pass pro. I think he's really refined technically. The awareness as a run blocker is really lacking. He does have some like power as a puller, but he's one of the most like lopsided players in terms of the value that I'm expecting to get in each phase. I'm drafting him like purely if I'm sitting there in the 4th round, we've got like a turnstile at right guard, and I just need somebody to kind of patch up the boat, so to speak. So, yeah, he is clearly though my top graded guard in this game. I like some of the flashes from Armaj Reed Adams, especially in the run game. He's just kind of like Diego Pounds, except I think less upside, where like the technique is so all over the place.
Yeah. Agreed. I agree with her as well. And then let's round this thing out with centers, man. And we'll get out of here. I got a 7 a.m. flight to catch.
Yeah, me too.
Oh boy. Pat Coogan. Pat Coogan. All right. Pat Coogan is still on the roster despite playing on Monday. He is still listed as going to play here. So that Jaeger Burton is also a center. The Kentucky player is also a center there as well. He's not very good, but he is a center. But we don't have Brian. Brian Parker is in this game as well. I wonder if he's going to play.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I must have missed that.
Yeah. I wonder if Brian Parker, he needs to play center
Yeah.
during this game. That's probably his best bet.
Did you see his Clemson tape?
It's not good.
Yeah, I was a fan of Brian Parker early in the season, and I was keeping up with him every week. I watched the Clemson tape, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll get to you later, like in the offseason."
He's just like, people want to kick him inside and even to center. I don't see that level of athlete. And again, kind of like Emil Wagner, I think he's very backboardy in his stance, like very forward player, out over his toes quite a bit. So, but again, he's a guard convert, so we'll see him there this week, which would be awesome for him. Pat Coogan's tape down the stretch in the playoffs, man, he definitely ended on a high note.
Well, not the Miami game.
Well, yeah. Well, Ahmad Moten kind of.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. He needs a kind of a bounce back performance from that, but he has definitely boosted his draft stock. Or I assume I didn't even watch him last year. I heard that people didn't like him as a prospect.
Yeah, Notre Dame fans didn't seem to care too much that he transferred out. All right. Sorry if Alex Katzen, if you're listening to the podcast, we're not going to talk about kickers, punters, and long snappers. But that's all we've got for this episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. James, anything you got to say here before the next time we see each other? It won't be over StreamYard. So,
yeah, man, I'm about to crash and then wake up in like 4 hours.
Yep, same. All right, man. Well, until next time, this has been another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. See ya.